Ever get that, like, shiver down your spine when a song just hits you, right in the feels? That's what we're diving into today. It's all about that deep connection between music and spirituality.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
And we're going beyond the usual, music soothes the soul. We're getting into some serious research here. You sent over a chapter from an academic book, no less.
Yeah, it's a dense one.
From the sacred to the ordinary, through the lens of psychological science. But a bit of a mouthful, right?
Right. Catchy title, though, huh?
But it's way more interesting than it sounds, trust me.
Oh, absolutely. It really gets you thinking. It's actually really tough to, pin down something as personal as spirituality and try to study it scientifically.
Right.
But this author, Yeshaya Greenberg, he found a really interesting way to approach it.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So how'd he do it? What's his angle?
So he connects spirituality to, get this, the exploration of non-physical realities.
Non-physical realities. Okay, break that down for me.
So think about things like experiencing true love, or, that feeling when you really feel like you've found your purpose, that sense of deep connection to something bigger than yourself.
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
Those moments of awe and wonder, the ones that kind of take your breath away.
I definitely resonate with that. I'm seeing where he's going with this. It's more about those profound feelings than any one specific religious practice, right?
Exactly. And the really cool thing is psychologists, they actually do study those kinds of experiences. And that opens up a whole new way of looking at and understanding spirituality.
That's a really insightful way to frame it. I can see why you're excited about this one. And, what I found even more intriguing was that the chapter looks at this through the lens of all these different religions. We're talking like Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist traditions. Mm-hmm. It's not just coming from one narrow perspective.
It's so important to remember that, right? The human experience of spirituality is incredibly diverse.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And whether you find your spiritual side in a cathedral or at a concert or even just on a walk with your headphones, this deep dive really has something for everyone.
I think so too. It's really universal in a lot of ways.
Though I gotta say, even defining music in this context gets a little tricky. Where do we draw the line?
Yeah.
Is it chanting a shaman's drum? Is it even the rhythmic hum of a busy city street?
That's one of those questions. It sounds simple on the surface, but it really keeps researchers up at night.
I bet. There's got to be a million different takes on it.
Right. But luckily, I think Greenberg offers a really insightful perspective on how to define music in this context of spirituality. And it's actually not just about the sound itself. So Greenberg, he's saying it's about intention, the intention behind the sound, both for the person creating it and the person listening.
Okay, that makes sense.
And of course, it's got to be organized sound, right? There's a structure to it.
All right.
So it's not just random noise. It's when those things come together, the intention, the structure, that's when we cross over from just sound into actual music, especially when we're talking about these spiritual experiences.
Totally. I mean, I can't imagine having some kind of spiritual awakening while I'm listening to a car alarm,
Right, exactly.
But a beautifully crafted symphony. Okay, now that's a different story.
Totally.
And speaking of stories, I love how Greenberg, it kind of takes us on this journey, through the chapter. It's we start with these ancient rituals and then we end up in the music we hear every single day.
Yeah, it's a cool structure.
And it's that everyday connection, I think, that's really going to resonate with people listening,
Oh, absolutely. He really gets into the research showing just how deeply connected those everyday musical experiences can be with our spirituality.
Like that study he mentioned on, what was it called? Jewish niggunim singing.
Yeah, the niggunim.
3 days. 3 days of singing these wordless melodies. And you imagine, that's got to be incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
I bet it led to some pretty profound experiences.
Oh, it totally did. The study found that people who did that, they had way less depression afterward. And they felt so much more connected to the other people. They felt more socially connected,
Wow. Sign me up for that choir. That's amazing.
Right. Pretty powerful stuff.
So basically, group singing, good for the soul. Scientifically proven.
I mean, it makes you think, right?
It does.
In Greenberg, he does a good job of connecting those findings back to the actual science of how music affects our brains, which is super interesting.
Okay, so neurochemicals and all that.
Exactly. It all comes down to hormones. Things like oxytocin and cortisol.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of those.
So oxytocin, that's the cuddle hormone, right? It gives us those warm, fuzzy feelings of connection with other people.
Right, right.
And then cortisol, that's our stress hormone. So basically the singing, it boosted the good vibes and it kind of kicked the stress to the curb.
Makes sense. So we've got the group thing going on, but the chapter goes beyond those like formal rituals too, right? It's not just about group singing for 3 days straight. He also explores those more spontaneous peak experiences that anyone can have with music.
Right, totally. And I love how he brings in Abraham Maslow for this.
Oh yeah, Maslow.
Mr. Hierarchy of Needs himself.
Exactly.
But Maslow, he was really interested in these peak experiences, right? Those moments of like intense joy, wonder, even awe.
Yeah. Like those moments where you're just totally lost in the moment, right?
Exactly. And I feel like Maslow was on to something with music. You know what I mean? Like he was really tapping into something important there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, think about it. How many times have you listened to a song and it just like hit you on this deep level?
Oh, all the time.
And it's not always like, super happy music. It can be any kind of music, really.
Totally.
Maybe it's the lyrics, maybe it's just the melody, but there's just something about it that moves you. You feel profoundly moved in a way that's hard to even describe.
It's like this, I don't know, transcendent experience or something.
Exactly. It's like music gives us this little glimpse into something bigger than ourselves, It's like the sense of connection to something beyond our everyday worries and anxieties.
I love that.
And Greenberg, he found that this whole thing, this experience, it's not limited to just one culture or background. Like, he talks about this study where people from all over the world were talking, like Pakistan, Japan, the UK. They were all asked to describe their most powerful experiences with music. And guess what?
What's that?
A huge number of them. They linked those experiences directly to spirituality. Even if they didn't use that exact word, spirituality, they described it in ways that were very clearly about connecting to something larger than themselves.
It's a powerful reminder that music really is a universal language.
It really is.
It goes beyond all the cultural differences, all the different languages we speak. It speaks to something deeper, something that unites us all as human beings.
It makes you wonder, what is it about those deeply moving musical experiences that allows us to connect with something beyond ourselves? Like, what's really going on there? Okay, so we've talked about those, like, really intense group singing experiences, right?
Yeah.
And those individual moments where music just totally transports you. But Greenberg, he doesn't stop there. He takes it even further and starts looking at the connection between our everyday taste in music and spirituality. Now, that's what I call a deep dive.
Right. Like, can your Spotify Wrapped really tell us something about your soul? It's a fascinating question.
Seriously. That's wild. So how do you even study that?
Well, he used this large-scale musical preference test and combined it with questionnaires about people's spiritual experiences to see if there were any, surprising correlations.
Okay, now that's a study I wish I could be a fly on the wall for. Did he find a link between, loving Gregorian chants and having a strong sense of spirituality?
That's the really interesting thing. It wasn't so much about loving specific genres like that.
Yeah.
It was more about how people engaged with music, regardless of what they were listening to.
Interesting. Okay. So, how does someone engage with music in a way that connects with this?
So the research found that depth, rhythm, and catharsis were really strong indicators of having these spiritual experiences with music. And get this, much more so than just personality traits like being open to new experiences, which they might think would play a bigger role.
Wow. So it's not about having Enya on repeat or chanting along with Tibetan monks. It's about how the music makes you feel.
Yeah.
That's a real aha moment right there. It's about those songs that really move you, the ones that make you feel connected to something bigger, even if you don't have the words for it.
Exactly. And, Greenberg doesn't just drop these fascinating insights and leave us hanging. He goes on to explore how understanding this power of music, it could have real-world applications. Especially when it comes to bridging those gaps between cultures and maybe even reducing conflict in the world.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, if a powerful experience with music can bring a room full of strangers together, imagine what it could do on a global scale. That's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Did Greenberg actually look into this in his research?
He did. He talked about this one study they had, Israeli and Palestinian singers, and they all came together to sing, and afterward. Both groups, they said they felt more connected to each other, to the other side.
Wow. That's really something.
Yeah. They found that common ground through music, and that it opened up their hearts and minds to actually understanding each other, which, given the history there, that's really significant. Gives us hope, right? Maybe music really can be a bridge to peace.
Music is a bridge to peace. Man, that's an idea worth holding on to. This whole deep dive, it's been amazing. We've covered ancient chants. We've dug into scientific studies. Have talked about those spine-tingling moments that just take your breath away, and even explored music's potential to create a more harmonious world.
It just goes to show you music is so much more than just entertainment. It's this powerful force that can connect us to, well, everything, to something bigger than ourselves, to each other, even to the world around us.
Beautifully said. And you know what? I think that's the perfect note to end on. So to everyone listening, the next time you put on your headphones or you find yourself at a live show just totally lost in the music, take a moment. Really listen. Pay attention to how that music makes you feel.
Yeah.
You might be surprised by what you discover, not just about the music itself, but about your own capacity for connection, for wonder, for, even a little transcendence. Thanks for joining us for this incredible deep dive into music and spirituality. It's been a real pleasure.